In our previous video, we created a space. Now we're going to add a utility bill to that high school space. So we click on high school, and that gives us then the building that we want to add our utilities to. If you remember, we had a computer data center as well as a school, and now we come down to energy meters and add a meter. Right, we typically suggest is if you're putting in, for instance, an electric meter, that you actually put your account number in there. If you don't have that number, you can just put in whatever your local utility is called. I'm going to call ours First Energy. If you put in your account number, it just allows you to track it easier later on when you want to add utilities to it, that you be sure you're using the right bill. Now, this meter, is it for just the data center, just the school, or the entire facility? And we're saying it's for the entire facility, and it's electricity. It's actually on the grid. I guess if you had on-site solar or wind, you could select that as well. Our units is going to be in kilowatt hours. We want to add this to our total energy use. Yes. Is it currently active? Yes. Is it temporary values being used? No. So we save that. Now it asks us how many months. Now to get a actual rating, you have to have a minimum of 12 months for all the utility. For instance, 12 months of electric, 12 months of gas, and they have to be the same 12 months. Otherwise, you won't get a rating. So it's better to actually have more than 12, but we're going to start with 12, and then I'll show you how you can add additional months. Our data starts in August of 2005, and we're going to hit continue, and it gives us a little table here for units of energy. As I mentioned in an earlier video, you don't have to put the dollars in because your rating is based on energy consumed, but it's kind of nice to put it in there just to track it for yourselves. All right, so we're going to start with our first month, and as I mentioned before, I'm just using data along these lines. So I'm going to fill in these first 12 months, and then I'll show you how to add the other ones here in a minute. So our first month is 301,000. Okay. Our next one is 395, 447, 428. I've filled this out before, and that's why it pops up. It just makes it a little bit easier for me to show you without you seeing my typing skills. 517, 444, 432, 490. Oops. 410, 600, and 500. Okay, good. And now I say save. It'll bring us back to our previous screen, and now we get to, we look down, we have data for the electric. Now we click on this and we say, well, I'd like to add some more entries because I don't have all the data. And it just so happens I have an additional 4, but it could be just 1, however. And it automatically kind of puts the date where you left off. And now I'm going to continue, and it should give me 4 additional months. So now we have 4, oops, that's not the one I want. Start with 4, 4, 4. Then we have 4, 6, 2. And we have 451. And we have 4,000. There's our last one. And we save. So if you already had a rating and you got now new utility data, that would work for you. Okay. So now we have our electric. Let's add in our gas. So now it would be nice to put in your whatever your gas account number is. Maybe we have East Ohio gas, or it could be whatever, with some kind of number. Is it for the entire facility? Yes. Type of gas or type of utility is natural gas. Now units, and this is sometimes an area that can kind of get you, is to be sure that you're using the same units. On your utility bill, it may be MCF, defined in thousands actually of cubic feet versus millions. So you just want to be sure that you get that right, or therms. Pretty typical, even though it says on your bill, and you'd have to look at it, it would say MCF, but in that particular case, if you look at it closely, it's meaning thousands of cubic feet versus millions. Yes, this is part of it. It's active, and no, I'm not using temporary values. And I want to put in, let's put in all 16 this time, and our start date is going to be 08/1/05, 2005. Continue. And our first one is going to be 50,000. Our next one is going to be 100,000. Then we have 800, and I don't know, 50, and 1300, and 1500, and just filling it out. Again, we didn't put in the dollars just because it doesn't affect our rating. But you could, so it just makes it kind of nice to track it later on. 50, 50, 70, 110, 900, 1,000. Save. Okay, so now we look at, we've entered our utility data, even though it's old because the data that we had was old. We have our East Ohio gas, and we have our First Energy. Now that we've looked at the data, we can then select our range and then get a base year from that. So let's see what September would give us. There's a current rating, and we'll look at this a little bit closer. You can see now we have a rating of 92. I had to go back and look at why we didn't have a rating earlier, and it was because we had selected that there was a separate meter for the computer data center, of which then we didn't have any data. That's why it didn't give us a rating, but we changed that. So our next video, we'll actually go through how to look at the different periods of time and the different reports that we can get.